In the opening scene, a father and daughter engage in their favorite pastime of hiking to the top of the Troll Hills in Western Norway. When they reach the peak, Tobias begins telling his daughter Nora tales of the famous trolls from their homeland. Apparently, these legendary beasts formerly roamed the planet, but when they were exposed to sunlight, they turned to stone. Tobias, a famous folklorist, and his daughter both think that trolls still roam the Norwegian highlands. 20 years later, Nora no longer believes in magic and has instead embraced science. She has recently become a paleontologist. She has been working at the excavation site for nearly 6 months when she makes her first discovery, a strange fossil. Nora and her colleagues are ecstatic that their efforts have paid off with this breakthrough. Rapid work is being done to create a metro station in the adjacent Dovre Mountains. Construction workers are busy boring holes in the mountain and preparing explosives to blast a tunnel through it. Activists, meantime, have gathered to demonstrate against the building, yelling that the government should protect the mountain instead. The leader dismisses their concerns and detonates the explosives, reducing the mountain to rubble. He and the employees enter the Dovre cave to be sure, when suddenly there is a deafening roar. After a few seconds, the ground shakes and they see a legendary old beast emerge from the mountain's depths. Workers are terrified and flee the scene, but the rubble from the mountain finally traps them. Shortly later, word of the incident reaches the Norwegian Armed Forces headquarters in Oslo. The general decides to dispatch an airplane to the scene in order to acquire an aerial view of the situation. After that, he issues a directive to notify the Prime Minister. The next scene shows Andreas, the counselor to the Norwegian Prime Minister, driving her to the military installation. Ahead of them, the Minister of Defense gives them an update, telling them that more than 50 individuals were killed in the event. He then shows some photographs of the area around Ground Zero, and upon closer inspection, we can see enormous craters. Despite Andreas's assertion that they resemble footprints, he is in no position to judge. In the meantime, Nora is still rejoicing with her co-workers on her groundbreaking finding. She starts talking, but then a military helicopter lands nearby. Then, a soldier appears and informs Nora that she has been called to Oslo at the request of the Prime Minister. She jumps aboard the helicopter and speeds off to the nearby military installation. Andreas meets her at the airport and takes her to a meeting with government officials. When Nora comes in, they can all talk about what's going on. The authorities suspect a chemical attack, but Nora disputes this theory. She thinks a dinosaur has emerged from the mountains after a thorough examination of the footprint image. Andreas believes it's possible the supernatural is at play, but he can't say for sure. When she tries to explain that this isn't one of her fossil research instances, the government authorities laugh at her. They also discount the likelihood that an animal is responsible. Sigrid, a computer whiz who works for the Norwegian military, bursts in at that very moment to announce that she has recovered video footage of the event. A humanoid creature, perhaps 150 feet in height, emerges from the Dovre cave when she plays it. This solidifies their belief that a monstrous being of some sort has landed in Norway. Meanwhile, in the rural region of Lesia, an elderly couple is enjoying afternoon tea when they hear a loud rumble in the distance. Then, the neighboring cutlery begins to fly off the table as the surface shakes. As the couple prepares to take shelter under their safety vault, they hear what they believe to be an earthquake. When they finally emerge from the vault, they find their destroyed home among the rubble. During this time, Nora informs the Prime Minister that she is prepared to investigate the Dovre event. The other government workers agree, so she takes on the role of scientific advisor. Andreas, the PM's advisor, tells Nora about the event in Lesia after the meeting, and the two of them immediately get in a helicopter and head to the scene. They pass the time with some light conversation throughout the journey. After a formal introduction, Andreas inquires of Nora about her path to paleontology. In response, the second says that her affinity for the outdoors dates back to her childhood. She also says that her father, Tobias, was a folklore scholar who finally lost touch with reality because of his extreme beliefs. His health deteriorated to the point where he needed hospitalization. I felt it hilarious when Andreas told Nora that he was working on a narrative about a monk who tears off his own head and tosses it at his enemies so that they may eat it. Nora and Andreas are shocked to see the level of damage at the scene. Captain Chris Holm of SOCOM will be there shortly to meet them. Chris gives them a rundown of the situation, saying that the beast followed its trail for another 2 miles south into the mountains. The search party looked everywhere but came up empty. The huge animal seemed to have vanished into thin air. After that, the three of them conduct an interview with the scared elderly couple. The wife admits she saw nothing, but that she did hear a mysterious howling sound. It sounded like King Kong crashing to the ground, and it was a terrible thought. The data isn't conclusive, so Nora has to look around by herself. She is walking near one of the gigantic footprints when she detects a peculiar odor that draws her in. Nora looks about for clues but, oddly, there don't seem to be any biological indicators there. The creature almost looks dead. Nora has reached her breaking point and has decided to contact her father, who has been separated from the family and is now living alone in the mountains, for assistance. They take a helicopter to his house and Nora, Captain Chris, and Andreas all arrive safely. Tobias is first unfriendly, but he warms up to them and invites them inside his home. After all these years, he is still curious about the existence of the legendary trolls. When he returns, the others play the video Sigrid had previously downloaded. Tobias is shocked by his surroundings and begins to mutter, "They are here." Nora, who is perplexed, insists that whatever answer they come up with must be based in science and not superstition. On the other hand, Tobias insists on his idea, saying that the trolls died off because Norway became Christianized. He continues by saying that he was going to come clean until he was called a crazy. Taking his belongings, he announces that they are off on an expedition. The next scene depicts Nora, her co-workers, and Tobias boarding a helicopter to travel to their destination. In due time, they reach their destination, and Tobias immediately begins exploring his new surroundings with enthusiasm. The landscape has undergone dramatic alteration, as he has noticed. Nora, meantime, catches a breath of the same peculiar aroma and labels it hyper-nature. As she looks around, she spots a big person behind her who has apparently been sleeping. The gigantic troll has disguised himself as part of the landscape. Even Andreas and the others pick up on this, so they get the helicopter going immediately. The party manages to get away just in the nick of time. After they've reached a secure area, they broadcast live online to present the footage to authorities in Oslo. All of society will now unquestionably accept the reality of the trolls. Very quickly after, the Prime Minister orders a military operation to be conducted by Captain Chris. In no time at all, hundreds of men are amassing the finest artillery in the country to bring the monster to its knees. However, the troll appears unaffected by all of their attempts. He has the ability to resurrect and also has a nose for blood. Tobias gets up after murdering a soldier and tries to reason with the monster. He's making an outstretched attempt, and it looks like it's working at first. At the same time, though, another car approaches and rains bullets down on the troll. Tobias is knocked to the ground after being thwacked by the troll's tail as it turns to squish the humans within. Unfortunately, he passes away before he can finish his message to Nora. Devastated, Nora spends the night poring over her father's notebook, hoping to get insight into the troll's motivations and character. She spends a few days reading about the trolls and finds out that they used to throw stones at churches because they detested the ringing of the bells. At a later time, she relays this data to the authorities, telling them they must use outside-the-box approaches. Even though the Minister of Defense is skeptical of this proposal due to its superstitious underpinnings, the General and the Prime Minister approve it anyhow. 4 military choppers, each carrying a massive church bell, fly towards the direction of the troll in the following scene. At first, the strategy seems to be working, as the troll shows visible signs of weakness. However, after some time, the troll adapts to the situation and kills most of the helicopters. Nora's plan to use church bells as weapons against the monster backfires horribly, leading to even more death and damage. As if things weren't bad enough already, now the tale is being reported on by news sources all over the world. The Prime Minister then addresses the public through television in an effort to restore calm. She begins by apologizing for her cabinet's ineptitude before declaring a state of emergency. She warns that the troll has set its sights on Oslo and the surrounding region, and that everyone should leave immediately. Meanwhile, Nora is left out in the cold because of her failure. And yet, Andreas finds out that the government is going to bomb Oslo to kill the troll there. He has some ideas on the matter, but he isn't expert enough to provide them, so he resigns. They then both exit the headquarters, Nora and Andreas. Thousands of people begin lining up on the streets almost immediately to get out of the city. They also include Andreas and Nora. The latter is still despondent at her failure to solve the troll issue, so she chooses to reread her father's journal. Suddenly, a clue appears before her eyes. She reads the notebook and finds the name Sinding written several times. Andreas reveals to her that Sinding is in fact a prince with royal privileges in Oslo's royal palace. It would appear that he is among the wealthiest men in the country. After hearing this, Nora insisted they do a U-turn and return to Oslo, where she thought they may find information at the royal palace. They eventually make it to the palace, where they find Rikard Sinding waiting for them. And then he brings them inside and tells them the whole truth about Norway's trolls. Tobias was correct, these legendary beasts did once roam the region. Nora and Andreas are led into the palace's tunnel system, where Sinding admits that he and the other officials murdered Tobias to keep their secret safe. So that no one would find out the truth, Sinding had Nora's father institutionalized in a mental institution when he grew too near to uncovering it. And that hidden truth is the skeletons of a family of trolls. After the Christians slaughtered the Troll King's family and left him for dead inside the mountain, his castle was constructed on top of his cave. This is when we learn that the troll spreading havoc across the land is actually the Troll King. To get back to his home, the mammoth has been traveling to Oslo. Trolls place a premium on family. As Sinding explains further, the Troll King was imprisoned in the Dovre Mountain during the Christianization of Norway. He was able to escape the previous blasts, and he's currently on his way back to Oslo to seek out his kids. When Nora and Andreas find out the truth, they are taken aback. The sight of the skeleton remains of the troll family further increases their terror. The bones crackle under Nora's UV light. Here is when her plan begins to take shape, as she recalls reading that trolls are photosensitive. Then, Nora begs Sinding to borrow the largest vehicle he owns, and he obliges by giving her the Queen's personal pickup truck. She then calls Captain Chris on the phone to let him in on the plan. She has an idea to bathe the Troll King in UV rays by surrounding him with tanning beds. Chris rallies his fellow troops to construct the troll trap while Andreas contacts his pal Sigrid at the government facility to postpone the plan to destroy Oslo with missiles. Sigrid's hacking prowess saves the day, as she is able to prevent the fighter jet from attacking the creature with missiles. With the city of Oslo still standing and the plan still very much in effect, Andreas and Nora decide to take swift action. The skull of a troll youngster is initially exposed as a big tarp is taken off the back of the truck. They leave in a vehicle and immediately begin enticing the oncoming behemoth towards the UV light trap. Time passes, and the troll accidentally destroys the skull, at which point he knows he has lost all of his relatives. Feeling justified in his anger, he sets his sights on Nora and Andreas in order to get revenge. When Sigrid gets found messing with the missile system at the military facility, it's hardly the end of the world. When it is discovered that there are civilians in the area, however, the general gives the order to call off the missile strike. In the meantime, Nora and Andreas manage to draw the troll to their planned place. Military trucks quickly encircle him and begin illuminating him with powerful UV lights. The troll dies a slow and agonizing death by fire. Nora gets a change of heart at the last minute after seeing the giant's pain. In an effort to spare the creature's life, she shuts off the lights after coming to terms with the wrongness of killing it. Finally, she recommends that the troll seek refuge in the mountains. This time, though, it's too late to do anything about it. It's peaceful for a while, but then the light comes up and the Troll King collapses. Nora leans out and lightly touches him right before he turns to stone. While everyone else celebrates, Andreas and Nora can't help but worry whether there are more trolls hidden somewhere in the mountains of Norway. Nora then suggests renaming the location to Tobias Boulder. In the film's climactic moment, we cut to Dovre Mountain, where we observe several stones shifting. An additional troll has emerged from the ruins, and it's eager to wreak havoc on the Norwegian people.